listening to The J-Boy Show, your number one source for Auburn and the SEC.
My goal was to run through his soul and grab his heart when I run through his soul.
Kurt, Nate, Coach Dab. Those are memories.
I think we've established ourselves as, I think, the premier conference in college football.
Now, the SEC is better at the top. It's better in the middle.
The Southeastern Conference remains the premier conference.
Takes the snap. Looking for the receiver. He's got Lutz and Kirkland. Touchdown, Auburn!
Think about it. It's always been the SEC and everybody else trying to catch it.
I think this is probably the best league from a competitive venue standpoint.
Most capable teams. You just look at those programs, the way they recruit, how they invest.
Snap to Burrow. 3 steps. Fires. Back corner of the end zone. Over the shoulder catch. Did he hold on? He did. Justin Jefferson. Touchdown, Tiger.
And now, your host, J-Boy.
Hello, everyone. It is Wednesday, so you know what that means. It's the recruiting roundup. Really excited. Covering a lot of guys today. Going to start off with one of the best in the business, SEC recruiting insider, my guy, Tay. Tay, what's up, man? Welcome back on another Wednesday.
Oh, what's up, bro? What's up, man?
Hey,
I've been on in a while.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like we were talking in the pre-show. Sometimes that 2 weeks deal kind of feels longer. Sometimes it feels shorter. It's kind of weird.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But man, let's get right into it because there's a lot going on. You know, we feel like it's going to be a big week. We've talked about for Auburn. We put some predictions out as well. But I want to talk about a guy that we talked about a bunch on here, Jeremiah Scooby Williams, the Buck out of Ramsey and Birmingham, 4-star. We have a prediction out for Auburn. A guy that, you know, and this happens with a lot of guys. You know, they're thinking maybe they're going to have visits now, and guys that were about to commit are maybe going to elongate their recruitment, which I don't blame them. I'd do the same thing and be able to actually go see it. But at the end of the day, I think this prediction is going to stay pretty strong.
Yeah, I agree. It's really, he really just want to take his visits, which we know he probably won't be in the visit. So that means, you know, these kids, they can visit the campus on their own with them and their family. So if they go visit the campus on their own, that means they really, really want to see that school. And I don't really see that happening with Scooby. So I guess he's just taking his time with the process, really. Having fun on social media is the biggest thing.
Definitely. And it's something too, and we've talked about it on here. Social media is a crazy thing, and you can't really rely on it, especially from kids, because they like to have fun on there. But you know, it's something too where this waffling going back and forth, are they going to be able to have visits? I'm talking about official visits. Are they not going to be able to have official visits? Are you just going to, you know, have to go there basically on your own, meet a coach? Obviously, nobody's really going to be there. There will be some people there, but there'll be mitigation. It's just such a weird deal. Can you just talk about for a second, as a guy that talks to the recruits, you know, just like I do, but, you know, you talk to them a lot. What is the feedback you're getting from just the indecision on whether they'll actually be able to take official visits?
Well, some guys, if they visit some schools right before the dead period ended, they kind of just go off of those visits there, or like they just go off the Zoom meetings that the coaches have with them and their families, and how they'll be using their schemes and things like that. But with Scooby in particular, is really he always said he want to use his OVs, which when he came out with a tweet about he wanted to make a commitment, it didn't really surprise me. But then again, I was like, hey, he might hold off on it. And then when he held off on it, people start panicking, things like that. But I will say Auburn has probably been a favorite for his whole recruitment. You know, he's a fan of Auburn. That's his dream school. His family are Auburn fans. So Auburn will always have that spot in his heart, no matter what you see in these articles, what you see on Rivals or 24/7. It just, Auburn will always have that spot in his heart. And in the end, it might be a battle. Cause I think it's turning more into an Auburn and a Georgia and a Florida battle now. There'll be a battle to the end for sure, but I just feel like his relationships and him being close to the home is going to end up winning out.
Definitely. And there's so many factors that go into these recruitments, but there's stuff that you can bank on. If you feel like the family's in your corner, that's something that, gives you a huge advantage. And there's a lot of factors, and it's different with different guys in different schools. But, again, it's something where recruiting is so fluid. 1 second a guy's about to pull the trigger, then he pulls off of it. But, getting some eliminating some of the indecision is going to really help it. But that's great insight, Tay. And I want to move on to another, huge prospect out of Birmingham, and that's 5-star JaQuincy Kool-Aid McKinstry, the athlete out of Pinson Valley High School. It's something where we put out a prediction with him to Auburn, still feel good about it. He's a guy that, Tay, you really could pull the trigger at any moment.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. Like, it could literally come tonight, could come tomorrow night. It just, whenever you feel like, hey, this is school I want to go to, then I will commit. But I feel like in the last month and a half or month and two, Bruce Pearl has really got involved with him in his recruitment, and he has these Zoom meetings with him to show him how he will be used on the basketball court. And on top of that, you got the football staff doing the same thing for football. And I think that's a huge factor in his recruitment, because not that I know of, I don't think any other basketball coach is actually telling him how he will be used. They just told him that, hey, look, you come play basketball for us, and it's that. So, but I could really see him doing something in this month. I know he's been hinting at a lot of stuff on Twitter and Instagram, but I think we could see something revolve around him this month.
Yeah, and it's something at the end of the day where, again, recruiting is recruiting, and he's a huge one. And I think you'll see some dominoes when he makes a decision kind of fall after. And me and you talked about that a little on the pre-show, and really some guys that we've mentioned. And before we get to some of the other guys we think are really close to pulling the trigger, there's 2 receivers, and we've talked about them on here before. But I want to talk about them again because, every day that moves past, you feel like there may be a little more momentum in Auburn's corner, and that's Hal Presley, currently committed to Baylor, and Rock Taylor, currently committed to Tennessee. Rock's out of Oxford High School, Hal's from Texas. What are you hearing on those two? We know Malcolm Johnson. We're going to talk about him in a minute, but those 2 guys, they're really good players, really good prospects. Are you hearing anything with Auburn on those 2?
With those 2, I'm basically hearing just like whoever wants in the class, really. Auburn, at this time, at the receiver position, Auburn really just taking the best guys available. They were particularly looking for a slot guy, but you had Bashar Smith commit to Miami, and then you had Christian Leary commit to Alabama. Mm-hmm. So it kind of shook the board up, and then you haven't been able to go out and scout any new guys. So at this time, it really just they're taking the best 2. But I feel like Auburn they now have the best shot with Rock, and I say that because he's closer to home, closer to Auburn. So he's visited the campus plenty of times. Now it's just on Auburn to continue to build that relationship with him and his family and make him a priority. That's the biggest thing. He really wanted to be a priority, but Tennessee made him a priority early, and they got a commitment from him. But we just have to make him a priority throughout these last couple of months.
Yeah, and Auburn does have a good track record, in Oxford. And Oxford's put out some really good players. And, is this one where we're speaking of Rock specifically, and you never really know, but is this one where if he were to decommit, would it be a decommit and then I'm going to look around, or would it be not really even a decommit, but just a flip commitment, to Auburn per se if it did happen?
I would just say it'll be a flip, bro.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he'll look around. So I think the only school he's really actually giving him a shot to flip is Auburn. Okay. I haven't really heard any school that he's giving a shot to, even Gravitt's commitment.
That makes sense. And I want to move on to a guy that we put out a prediction on that we think it's imminent. Going back, I really probably should have put locked on the prediction. 95% is pretty locked, but I probably should have put locked. And that's Amari Harvey, the 4-star safety, really DB. I think he's a guy that can do multiple things. Out of down there in Florida, a really good player. A&M was really hot on him. And this is one that Auburn's going to be able to sneak down there and probably steal out of FSU's backyard.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely a steal, bro. He's a really good ball player to me. He's a versatile guy. Athletic, but I think we could see something revolve around him this week. He could literally come tonight or this afternoon, or even when we get off the phone. But I think he's ready to make his commitment. He's 100% locked in. It's just a matter of time of when he wants to come out publicly.
Yeah, and can you talk about just the momentum? Because again, he's a guy that people know, and Auburn has been talking about getting momentum. And do you think that would start something? Because right behind him, we threw out a prediction for Kamari Lassiter. We believe it came down to Auburn and Georgia, and we're obviously feeling pretty good about where Auburn stands. Do you think if you see Amari, then you might see Kamari right after him?
Oh yeah, for sure, bro. I would definitely. I can vision that most definitely, and it wouldn't even surprise me, even though Kool-Aid comes out and do something later on this month or early next month. But with McKinstry, I've heard he want to commit before his season starts, and I think that starts in maybe two weeks, maybe or 3.
Yeah,
I know that's when Kamari he's committing on the first week of their first football game.
Yeah,
but, the momentum will be crazy. Well, it will be crazy once Amari hops on the board for sure.
Yeah, I'm wondering because people are going to be asking, because that's 3 DBs right there. That's a safety and 2 corners. We've talked about Nyland Green a lot. We've actually have a prediction with him out to Georgia. Do you think that's something? Because I know Auburn still, and again, feels like they're in it with him. But again, you can only sign so many DBs, and I know Auburn wouldn't be upset with Amari Harvey, Kamari Lassiter, and Kool-Aid joining Phillip O'Brien and probably Tarvaris Dawson.
Correct. Correct. But Nyland, I know Nyland. I know everyone knew that he was supposed to come out with a top 5 maybe a couple weeks ago, but he never did it. He still hasn't done it. So that kind of tells me, and it tells the staff a little bit that he maybe wants to play the waiting game. So he originally said in the middle of the season, but I think his recruitment was stretched out a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
What you about to say, bro?
No, go ahead. I agree with you 100%. I mean, if that's not a sign that, it's going to be a long battle for him. And we can always amend predictions, crazier stuff has happened. But, I think you bring up a great point. If you're reading the tea leaves, it looks like this one's going to take a while.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely going to take a while. But I feel like Auburn, they feel just as good. I mean, like, talent-wise, between Lassiter and Nyland and Kool-Aid, they all feel like they're in that same little tier or category when it comes to skill set and of being a corner. But I've also heard they kind of like Kool-Aid at safety some a little bit too. But the thing with Nyland, I know a lot of fans are upset about how the momentum just shifted. But the thing with Nyland, Georgia has always been there. Georgia always been in his heart. Kind of like Scooby, Auburn will always be in his heart. That's the same thing with Nyland. It's just Georgia made him a priority a little later on. And it's kind of paying off for them. But Auburn, on the Auburn side, they didn't do anything wrong. It's just that's how the dominoes fall sometimes.
Exactly, and it's a crazy process, and you never know what can happen. I mean, like I said, we can always amend predictions because stuff changes. Stuff changes. Correct. Now we don't just throw them out there and for wanting to change them. But again, if we hear something or something happens, we're going to change it because it's what's happening. So kind of as we wrap up here, Tay, a few other guys I want to talk about. Me and you have talked about Dylan Brooks a lot. The current Tennessee commit from Hanley, Roanoke area, the 4-star cousin of Jarris McIntyre. And, Auburn's, you can see on social media, again, take everything with a grain of salt. You'll see him post Tennessee stuff. But at the end of the day, man, you just feel like this one's still up in the air.
Everything I heard is basically 50-50 with him just being committed to Tennessee right now. But I can tell you this, the Tennessee-Auburn game, if there's a football season, that would be a huge game as far as where Dylan recruitment might go. But it's definitely a 50-50 battle right now because I know when he first committed, he wasn't being responsive to Auburn phone calls, text messages, or anything like that. But I know his mom prefers Auburn. And, of course, his cousin, Jarris McIntyre, he prefers Auburn because he went to Auburn. But the thing with Dylan is you'll go to his Instagram or his Twitter, you would just see Tennessee, which that's how it's supposed to be because he's a Tennessee commit. But little do they know behind the scenes, he's still returning Auburn phone calls, not once a week, but 2 or 3 times a week. We having Zoom meetings with him, telling him how he'll be used. And just things like that, just building confidence with him.
Yeah, and that's what it takes. Again, especially when you're, going up against a guy that's committed, and that's the way the battle is. And there's other schools that are trying to do that with Auburn commits right now, and that's the name of the game, because it's not final until it's signed on the dotted line, sealed, and delivered. So that'll be one we definitely got to watch. And really, the last guy I want to talk about is one that we've had on the show, like Malcolm Johnson a lot, 4-star receiver out of Maryland. He dropped his top 5. Auburn's in there. Alabama's in there. Georgia's in there. Is it something where, there's been a few crystal balls for Alabama. There's been a crystal ball for Auburn. Auburn's looking for that receiver spot. And, is it something where you see Malcolm Johnson going to play with a Christian Leary as opposed to being the star-studded, really wide receiver in this class for Auburn?
I could definitely see him being the star-studded receiver in Auburn class. Just based off, what Christian Leary committed to Alabama, and they basically have their slot there. But the main thing with Auburn is playing time. Because we all know Anthony Schwartz, he's a junior this year. Who knows, he could leave this year, or he could even stay his senior year. But they're really selling Malcolm really on the slot position, being like Anthony Schwartz. And he can replace Anthony Schwartz very early in his career. But at this time, I see Auburn as the leader. The Alabama crystal balls, I won't really pay attention to any of them, but I know Steve put in a crystal ball right after he did an interview with Malcolm, so that tells us a lot there. But I know he wants to run track in college also, and D's been working him pretty good. I know D hasn't been on social media power the past month or so, but I still communicate daily with D. He tells me he's still working some Auburn guys behind the scenes, but Malcolm's a guy I definitely could see in the class for sure.
Yeah, and he is Demetrius Davis, Auburn quarterback commitment, and a guy that's doing a great job kind of helping put this class together and hoping to get a few more guys to join him. Tay, awesome stuff as usual, man. Tell everybody where they can find you. And again, if you're not following this guy, you're crazy, because he's going to tell you the truth. And while he can't say everything on social media, he doesn't tweet a ton. When he does, make sure you pay attention.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. You find my Twitter at King Tay. That's KV and GGG _ TAAAY. That's 3 A's in Tay. And my Instagram is the same name.
Definitely. And Tay, we appreciate it, man. We'll see you in a couple weeks, and we'll talk soon, man.
I appreciate you, bro.
All right, everybody, and stay ready. We've got Jay Phillips from Auburn Hoops News going to talk a guy that's kind of come on Auburn's radar, Coke Yacht. I believe I'm saying that right. James Graham, the 4-stars, announcing he's going to commit. We have an update on J.D. Davidson, Scoot Henderson, Joyful Hawkins, and everything else Auburn basketball and recruiting. Make sure you guys stay tuned, because here it comes. Very excited it's our second installment, I guess, officially of the basketball segment here on the Recruiting Roundup. And we're joined by Jay Phillips. You can find him at AU Hoops News, at AUBAWN, the Auburn Hoops account, one of the Auburn Hoops accounts, and does a really good job, a great job actually, following Auburn recruiting, SEC basketball recruiting, and has some great update for us. Jay, I appreciate you coming back, man.
Yeah, of course, Jake. Thanks for having me.
No doubt. Well, I want to start, we're going to talk about some of the same guys we did last time, because obviously new stuff has happened, and one of them continues to just, I guess you could say, blow up or accelerate in the minds of many coaches and basketball recruiting fans. But the guy I want to start talking about is, and I believe I'm saying this right, is Coke Yacht. He reclassified to the 2021 class. Release, was it a top 10 or was it a top 5, Jay?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
I think it's a top 8, I believe, and Auburn was in it. What have you heard about him? I mean, it's kind of one that popped up out of the radar, at least in my eyes, kind of out of nowhere. What are you hearing?
Well, the first thing everyone should probably know about Coke Yacht is that he's the younger cousin of JT Thor. Both him and JT played at Huntington together and transferred to Norcross together. So there's already a connection there. He's a lot like JT. He doesn't have the outside shot and stuff the last time I saw him play, but he's just super athletic. He's really long. He's got a really good handle for his size, and just a super high ceiling player.
Is he one? Is there a comp to you? Just as far as his game wise, maybe that's been at Auburn in the SEC.
It's hard to say. Obviously, because of the similar trainings, it's hard not to compare his game to JT Thor a little bit.
Yeah.
But he has just that super long, skinny, almost Slim Reaper-ish perimeter game. But he, if you just looked at him by size, you wouldn't expect him to be a perimeter player kind of thing.
Yeah.
So he's got that versatility, the unique guard look to him. But it's hard to compare him to anybody in particular, I'd say. I haven't really seen him enough to get there yet.
Yeah, and he's a guy, like you said, if you look, he was a 2022 guy back 2021. He's a 4-star composite. And, 6'8", 185, you can never be mad about or upset about getting length, especially at the rate Auburn's getting it.
Right. Yeah, definitely. He fits that mold that JT Thor, Jalen Williams, Chris Moore, just a guy who's at the very least an elite physical athlete, basketball player kind of thing.
Yeah, and does it kind of remind you, because I'm starting to look at who Auburn's bringing in, and this is a huge compliment. It's starting to look a lot like Bruce Pearl's best SEC team. Super long, super athletic, guys that can do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I agree with you for that. And I can't remember the quote exactly, but it was from, I want to say, the year that Auburn won the regular season championship, and they went to Alabama and lost at Alabama. I hope I'm getting those years right. But anyway, what Bruce said after the game was, he's been able to get talent and coach talent, but at that point he didn't have the talented physical specimens that he was playing against. He was going and playing guys with 5 stars like Sexton and Petty and Herb Jones and all those guys. But Bruce he could score with them, but he could not match up with them athletically. But now I think it's starting to get to the point where Bruce is getting the mindset he wants in a guy, the physical attributes and the scoring prowess kind of thing.
Yeah, and you're picking from a new pumpkin patch. You know what I'm saying? You're able to, especially with the success that they've had, and that's how it works. I mean, that's the natural evolution of success in a college athletic program. I mean, you obviously had success on the field or on the court. You're going to have success in recruiting, therefore bringing more success on the field and the court, and hopefully you have that recurring cycle. But kind of moving on to a guy that we have talked about a lot, has been trending to Auburn a lot, and I haven't seen that slowing down. And again, it's one of those recruitments, you never know where it's going to go, but you can only live in the here and now, and that's J.D. Davidson.
Yeah, J.D. is an interesting one because, I feel like if just goes for a lot of the top guys in 2021, they haven't gotten that rising senior and AAU media attention where they're getting interviewed by 10 guys a week after every game they play kind of thing, so we don't really know as much as I feel like we normally would about the top dogs in the 2021 class. But JD has definitely been linked to Auburn a lot. One thing that this past week, you and I were just talking about how JD is transferring from the Atlanta Celtics to the Nike Elite Stars in Florence, Alabama.
Yeah.
It probably means nothing, but he is going from a team coached by Jared Harper's dad in Bruce Pearl's backyard, per se, to a Nike team in Florence, Alabama. I can't imagine that helps Auburn, but hopefully it doesn't hurt them very much.
Yeah, and again, there's small things, and you really never know. And I think you bring up a great point. I mean, with all that's going on right now, we really are at a disadvantage because we don't have as much information as we normally would when it pertains to these guys' recruitments. And JD's a great example of that. And hopefully, eventually, we'll return to where we get that information, and we're able to feel even better about what we're able to relay on that front. But a guy that's kind of Auburn's been in the mix with. Is committing soon, I believe August 17th. That's 3-star. He's a 4-star and 247, 3-star composite, 6'8", 205 small forward James Graham. Auburn's been involved in the commitment or in the recruitment, but right now it kind of looks like Maryland's going to land this commitment.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like. James has been getting a bunch of predictions to Maryland. And the thing that makes me think that Auburn won't get him is just all the guys that are on the board.
Yeah.
And what looks like what's going to be a very small class for Auburn, maybe like 3 players max, unless there's departures that we just can't predict.
Yeah.
So if Auburn takes someone this early with, Jabari Smith still on the board, JD on the board, just all these other guys, it might hurt their chances with someone like Jabari a little bit, who sees James Graham playing potentially the same position as him.
Exactly, and it's something too where I think we can confidently say that James Graham probably won't be committing to Auburn on the 17th. But kind of as we wrap up here, Jay, and again we're talking with Jay Phillips. Make sure you follow him at AU Hoops News on Twitter. I want to talk about guys that Auburn's been really a huge factor already in their recruitment, and that's 2022 phenoms Joyful Hawkins and Scoot Henderson. And you kind of got an update a little bit on Scoot, right?
Yeah, definitely. I was at their games this past weekend, and Scoot just took over, completely stole the spotlight at the Always Live event, and he was playing. He's technically on the 16U team, but the 16U Game Elite team is playing 17U circuit. And Scoot was still he was named the tournament's best performer as an underclassman and the overall performer, which just goes to show you how advanced and good he already is. And he's still improving every time I see him. His shot selection has improved a bunch, but he's going to be an interesting one to watch. I think that Scoot's probably going to enjoy his recruitment process. What makes me think that is that he is just such a good player that his offer list has not caught up yet.
Yeah.
And so I imagine that's going to happen down the line and that it's going to be a tight battle. But Auburn has definitely done a bunch to put themselves in a good position there.
Yeah, and when you watch him, I mean, man, I'm thinking of somebody to compare him to, but, he's a guy that can dribble the ball all the way down the court and go dunk on the center. Or he's a guy that can dribble to the wing, cut it back and stop and hit a mid-range shot. Now, his shot's not phenomenal yet, but it's something that he'll keep working on. But is there somebody he reminds you of? I mean, is he a more athletic Jared Harper? I mean, what is it?
Yeah, you see a lot of people compare him to Colin Sexton, and I think that that's mainly a size, athleticism, and mindset kind of thing. But when I talked to Scoot a few months ago in the feature that we did on him, the first person that he compared his game to was Jared Harper. And he said, I train with Jared Harper a lot. I like to think that I play like Jared Harper. And he doesn't have the unlimited range like Jared Harper has right now. I don't really know if anybody does, but he definitely has that. He just goes full speed the whole time and has such good control, especially for his size, that he's usually able to just weave through the open court and, find somebody wide open or take it in for himself. You see a lot of Jared Harper in that, and he has that mentality that Harper and Sexton played with as well, where he's just always in attack mode, aggressive, always trying to win, even if it's just this small little one-on-one battle.
Yeah, and it's something you love to see your point guard play with that. Now I do have a question for you, Jay, because you're a guy that would know. So Scoot trained with Jared. Does he play for the same AAU team that Jared's dad coaches?
No, he does not.
Okay.
Yeah, Scoot plays for Game Elite, and that is, Auburn does have a bunch of connections with that team too. They recruited Jalen Williams, came from Game Elite, and that was the same team with Ashton Higgins and Christian Brown, and a bunch of guys that Auburn was.
And I asked that because now that JD's, obviously, and JD runs the point. He can also play the two, but JD runs the point. Now that he's left the team that Jared Harper's dad coaches and gone to the team in Florence, the Nike team, do you think you may see Scoot jump over and be the point on Jared Harper's dad team and maybe Joyful follow him over there?
I can't imagine that happens. The Celtics, who is the team that Pat Harper and JD were and are on, has Miles Rice, I believe, is their point guard, and he's another 3-star guy who I think plays with Jabari in high school at Sandy Creek. But I think that was a big reason, or potentially a big reason, that JD was looking for a different fit. Was just there weren't the point guard minutes that he wanted there, especially when you got a guy who's been with that program and is trying to build his brand in Miles Rice.
Yeah, that makes sense. And again, there's the AAU stuff. I mean, it's almost like travel baseball, man. So many things can happen, and it's not always as it seems. But Jay, is there anything I left out, man? Anything else you've heard kind of left on the table?
Well, if you want to touch on a little bit more of maybe under the radar guy to keep an eye on, somebody that I was really impressed with at last week's tournament or over the weekend at the tournament was Jerry Dang.
Yeah,
Game 3, and I was told that he is the roommate of Kokiat at Norcross, which means there might be a connection there to the JT Thor circle, but I don't know about anything more than that right now. But he is just, he looks a lot like a little bit more beefy version of JT Thor. He plays a lot like JT, though. He's a big dude. He was the biggest dude on the court, bringing the ball up the court and pulling up for three and stuff like that. That was his first weekend with the team. He got a really good run in the first game that they won. It was a blowout, so he got a bunch of minutes at the end. But outside of that, I didn't get to see him too much. But I would say that he's somebody to keep an eye on.
That's great stuff. And again, we go back to it. Length and athleticism, man, it does a ton for you, especially in the game of basketball. But Jay, as usual, man, absolute great stuff. Tell everybody where they can find you, because if you want to keep up with basketball recruiting, because again, this guy goes and watches them play and has clips of them playing, so you can actually see these guys live.
Yep, if you guys want to check that out, definitely go on Twitter at the Bruce Blog, and that's AU Hoops News is the name of that account, but the handle is the Bruce Blog. Or you can find my personal Auburn Twitter, and that is at AUBAWN.
Definitely, Matt. Well, Jay, can't wait to have you back in 2 weeks, man. And as it gets closer to basketball season, we'll have even more and more stuff.
Sounds great, man. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Jay, stay safe out there, bud.
You too.
All right, everybody. That was Jay Phillips from AU Hoops News giving us that great basketball recruiting update. Again, a guy that will go and find it and always has some fresh updates for us. Stay tuned. We got Eli Gravitt coming up, talking some guys that I know y'all are very interested in. We're talking Terrion Arnold. We're talking Jason Marshall, just committed to UF. We're talking a few 2022 guys Auburn fans really need to keep their eye on, especially one that just went to IMG and another guy that's dropping his top 5 and expect Auburn to be in there. So stay with us. Our last segment with Eli Gravitt's coming. This is the J-Boy Show, the recruiting roundup. It's Wednesday, baby. Let's get it. All right, everybody, we are here with Insider, one of the best guys. We have him on every other Wednesday, Eli Gravitt. Make sure you're following him on Twitter at Eli Gravitt. Eli, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, Jay? What's up, bro?
Hey, man, just you know how it is grinding out here with everything changing, and it's you still got to keep up with recruiting.
Always, bro. Well, I've been keeping up with it. I got some stuff for the people.
Oh, definitely. Well, I want to start with a guy that we've had on the show. A guy that you've talked with, you've kept up with his recruitment, and y'all talk a decent amount, and that's 4-star. He's just a super athlete to me, Terrion Arnold. We had crystal balls to Alabama. We got him on the show. We said, he really didn't even have a top 10. Well, this past week there's been a lot of kind of smoke around Terrion in Florida. What has he said to you, and kind of what have you heard?
For the minutes I talked to Terrion, I have heard the Florida rumors, but I definitely see it happening. Him being down in that area, it's a very well recruited area from Florida, and it's the highly targeted SEC area. So I can see that happening. I just not right now. I wouldn't count on anybody right now. I would kind of, he's kind of being a little quiet about it on social media. He gives you anybody as of right now.
Yeah, and it's one that's going to stretch out, and he's a guy that wants to play basketball too, and a guy that actually basketball was his first love, and he's a really good player. And this is a recruitment I think that you're going to hear 1 week it's this team, another week it's that team, and it's going to go all the way down to the wire. Isn't that kind of how you seeing it?
Yeah, that's exactly how I'm seeing it. I've heard a lot of people say Bama, and then he ended up telling us that he ain't even dropped top 10. He still ain't got a top 10 now. So I think once that top 10 gets out, you can kind of narrow him down, kind of see what's going on. But until then, I'm not really going to jump to any conclusion with him.
Yeah, and again, I think it's a kind of sit back and see approach. And again, Auburn's a team I think that could get in it. I think there's some things that are going to happen before that may affect the numbers. But with a guy of his talent level, it's a guy you can always find room for. But speaking of Florida, a guy that we've kept up with and something that. He's a 5-star, talking about Jason Marshall, the corner. A lot of people were thinking he was going to go to Miami, and he ended up committing to Florida. That's kind of an interesting battle there. Can you just kind of talk about that war that you've seen between Miami and Florida? And I mean, it's gotten kind of nasty on social media.
Man, it's getting crazy down there. You know what I'm saying? A lot of Miami kids, you look at it and you think think Miami's getting a lot of them kids, but Florida's taking some very high rated recruits from down there, and from anywhere really.
But, the Marshall commitment very much surprised me, probably as much as did anybody else, because, I heard a lot of Miami and Alabama rumors about him. So, it's just something, that shocked me. But, you can't just keep up with everybody, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's something too where you heard a lot about Bama, you heard a lot about Miami, especially after Leonard Taylor committed, and that's why again we say it all the time. Social media is great, and you can get some things from there, but if you are investing all your hope into something you are seeing on social media, you're going to be disappointed probably more times than you're going to be excited. But another guy that I know Auburn really likes. He's a guy that we've talked about, and we believe we're going to be able to get to commit on the show, and that's Jamori Robinson, a guy that I think if they get to play, we got to find out if he's a December guy. But man, if he could get on the field, I wouldn't be shocked to see him get that 4th star.
Oh yeah, I would not be shocked at all. Jamori, big time athlete, big body frame guy. Jamori's 6'5", 6'6", 250 pounds, right around there, and. Like I said, I totally agree with you. If he can get, one more year of film, it definitely boosts his resume. I think also he'd probably pull that 4-star out. But, I talk with Jamori all the time. I just, texted him last night. Me and him was texting a little bit. And if I can't really explain, how good a relationship he has with Coach Alpo, the outside linebackers coach.
Yeah.
And, I've been saying it for a while, and I'm still, going to continue to say it. I think in the end, if Jamori ends up choosing Auburn, that's exactly what it was, a relationship with Coach Pogue.
Yeah, and we had Coach Pogue on the show, and obviously, the relationship they've built's one that's going to help Auburn in the end, especially if it ends up kind of working out where they can take him. But, speaking of kind of guys whittling it down, another guy that you've been shoot, man, you've covered since the jump, really. That's 3-star Javon Grigsby from down there in Florida. He's going to be making some news soon. I know he's dropping something.
Oh, yeah. He's I expect a top 5 very, very soon from Javon. He's in my opinion, I tell everybody this, me and Tay talk about it all the time, especially. I think Javon Grigsby is so underrated, it's crazy.
Yeah.
You go watch his film, the kid's probably running like a 4.3 40, super fast, super athlete. Well framed, his body's real good to be a safety. He's right there, 6'1", 185 range for a safety. And, I just think he's very super underrated, and I think whoever pulls him out in the end is going to be getting a stud for a player.
Yeah, and I know Auburn's, in that recruitment, I know Michigan State, there's a lot of Michigan State smoke.
Yeah, Michigan State is probably recruiting him the hardest right now. Michigan State is recruiting him the hardest, but I am fully 100% expecting Auburn to be in that top 5 whenever it comes out, and I expect it to come out very soon. So.
Yeah, and I agree. It's a guy that people need to watch. And kind of as we wind down here, a kid from the 2022 class, an offensive lineman that, again, you turn the tape on, I think he's going to end up being a guy that's pretty highly rated. Kind of made some news. That's Dane Shore out of a high school in Georgia, going down to IMG to play. Can you kind of talk about that? Because I know you and Dane talk a lot.
Yeah, me and Dane talk a lot. He's another big-time player out there. He was at Denmark originally.
Yeah.
And then he was transferring to IMG for his last 2 seasons. And Dane has told me that a lot of IMG guys down there, they have talks all the time, and a lot of them are interested in Auburn. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's a few guys that Auburn are involved with down there at IMG. Georgia's got a commitment down there too. So it's kind of a different mix down there.
Oh yeah. It's most of those are Division I players. They're big time down there. But I think Coach Acosta does a very good job, getting them prepared. And I'm expecting Dane. He's got offers from everybody you can imagine right now. He's a very high-rated recruit, 4-star offensive lineman, ESPN 300. But he has very tight connections with Auburn. And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but his granddad actually played basketball at Auburn.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of people might not know that, but he's always been tied into Auburn, and I feel really good about him going into his commitment. You know what I'm saying? I feel very comfortable at Auburn, be sitting in a very good place right now.
Definitely, especially with a connection like that, man. But
exactly.
Yeah, Eli, as always, man, you're always bringing the heat. We really appreciate it. Tell everybody where they can find you because you're a great follow. And if you care about recruiting and want to keep it up to the minute, this is a guy you need to follow.
Oh, yeah. Y'all can find me on Twitter at Eli Gravitt. just, man, hopefully all y'all already follow me. But if y'all don't, just give me a follow there. Like I said, if y'all got any recruit questions, hit me in my DM, and some of y'all have my number. So just hit me up. I don't buzz to text back no matter what it is.
Definitely, man. That's why you're one of the best. Eli, really appreciate you. Talk to you in a couple weeks, bro.
All right, bro. I appreciate you, Jake.
Hey, see you, Eli.
All right, bro.
All right. Again, thank you guys so much for joining us. Another recruiting roundup. A lot of information, a lot of prospects covered. And with all the other stuff going around, are they going to play? Are they not going to play? Recruiting never stops. So we're going to keep bringing you that information, and we're not going to stop just because there's a lot of other news going on. So we appreciate you guys listening. And again, remember those predictions we got out there. I think it's going to be a big week for Auburn. I think there's some news that's going to be happening, and other SEC news. We appreciate you guys that listen that are from other schools, even outside the SEC. It's nice to know what's going on with prospects. And again, we try and bring you the truth. We obviously talk about a lot of Auburn prospects, but again, Auburn's recruiting a lot of SEC prospects, and we try to mix it up a little bit. So thank you guys so much. Remember, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at the J-Boy Show. Want to give a shout out to IBN Sports and Faison in the studio doing his thing. Again, you can text JBOY to 90407 so you can get the earliest predictions. We're 34-35 right now, and we're feeling pretty good about some of the ones coming up. So again, thank you guys so much. It's been another recruiting edition of the J-Boy Show, and J-Boy is gone.